Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. Today, we're going to honor the Challenger astronauts of our space shuttle era. This on January 28th, 1986, of course, the 7 astronauts lost their lives. We're going to do a short bio of each of them in an interesting way that we think you'll enjoy. Behind me is the peninsula of Florida there. I'm kind of hiding a little bit there, Marty, peninsula, but we're, if anything, go the other way there. There we go. Well, now we're showing more of our junk there, but okay, good. Just right there, just part sticking out there is where we're at here at Kennedy. We're just 11 miles from Kennedy Space Center, where today they honored at the Mirror the fallen astronauts in a warm ceremony there. I saw some pictures that Carlton Bailey took of it. We'll post those up on our Facebook page. But today we want to make sure that you know that we're having an astronaut memorial Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Astronaut Nicole Pisano-Stott will be our featured presenter. Just communicated with Nicole a little bit ago. She's looking forward to being part of this very patriotic and reverent ceremony that's going to include the Israeli consulate is coming up from Miami, and I found out today that a TV station is coming up with them to broadcast this event to Israel. It'll be 8 o'clock in the morning in Israel and 1 o'clock here. Marty Winkle, my co-producer and friend for these 2.5 years we've been doing Stay Curious. Marty, that's pretty interesting that they're going to broadcast it to Israel. Marty, you're going to be doing our Streamlabs program that'll be on YouTube and Facebook. So we're not allowed to. So anyway, you're going to enjoy that. Please tune in on YouTube for that, where we honor our fallen 17 astronauts in a very patriotic and reverent way. You're going to enjoy that, and we're so honored that Nicole Stott is participating in this. So, Marty, we're talking about the tragedy that rocked the world 37 years ago. This is the tragedy that a lot of people remember distinctly. 37 years ago, if you're 47, around 50 years old now, this is a big part of your life. The tragedy happening in mid-morning, about 11 o'clock launch, and we know a lot of has been written about it, and all kinds of books, documentaries, and that's not what we do on Stay Curious. We don't hash over the tragedies, nuts and bolts of it. We honor the beautiful human beings that gave their life so that we could live in this incredible 21st century. And you better believe that the things that the space shuttle did, its 3 decades, helped completely change the way the 21st century is here in 2023. Look at this beautiful symbolic emblem or crew patch. You've got the Earth there in the corner with the launch from Kennedy Space Center, the flight of the space shuttle, the payload doors open to do its science. What a lot of people miss, the American flag there, but buried in the American flag is a silver comet. This was 1986, and Halley's Comet was making a close pass by Earth. Actually, it was on the other side of the sun from Earth, so it wasn't that spectacular. But they were going to do some science with a small telescope looking at it from the payload. The 5 meant fiscal year 85. 1 was launched from Kennedy. 2 would have been Vandenberg and L in the number of sequence of that fiscal year. Though as fiscal years go to October. So the space shuttle was comprised of 3 parts, a spaceship, a gas tank, and 2 side rockets to help blast it off Earth. The shuttle was going to be a space truck to deliver the world's satellites to Earth orbit and beyond. This was the 10th flight of the second orbiter of America's proud fleet. Challenger was to deploy a satellite to study Halley's Comet and put in orbit an important communications satellite, the TDRS satellite, for America's space program. But the world was abuzz with the first teacher in space, Krista McAuliffe, who was going to teach several lessons from space to thousands of students on the ground. Her crew had one other rookie and 5 veterans ready to make history that day. Of course, a terrible thing happened 37 years ago. We all know the story. It was just too cold to launch that freezing morning of January 28, 1986. And despite some strong objections, management judged that Challenger was to launch anyway. We all know that a joint failed in the right solid rocket booster, and a spurting flame ended that space flight at 73 seconds into launch. The incredible tragedy that happened at 11:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time launch was on live television, broadcast to hundreds of schools, and America went into shock that Tuesday morning. But such was the complacency of the media, though a teacher in space was to be launched. Only CNN cable network had it live. The other networks did not cover it. So not though millions saw the replay, just maybe hundreds of thousands actually saw the launch as it unfolded. Well, the age of innocence was over for the space transportation system. NASA immediately lost hundreds of millions of dollars in orders for launching satellites, and gone were the dreams of more civilians going to space, like artists and writers and volunteers that included musician Bob Denver and CBS newsman Dan Rather, very much in the queue to maybe ride the shuttle. Excuse me. He was going to talk live to the Challenger astronauts as they flew over the nation's capital. Instead, the president was on television at 5 p.m. that evening from the Oval Office, soothing the sorrow of a nation that mourned. President Reagan's words have echoed the last 37 years. The crew, and quote, "The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger honored us by the manner in which they lived their lives. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surely bonds of earth to touch the face of God." Unquote. All of the 7 Challenger astronauts have named after them streets, schools, planetariums, even airports. And let's honor them today in a way that I think you'll all enjoy. If you've been to the Kennedy Visitors Complex, you recognize that this is the hallway where these 14 astronauts of Challenger and Columbia are honored, and in the that you're going to see of their lives. And then the famous words of President Ronald Reagan: "The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted, it belongs to the brave." And it was such an impactful exhibit there. It's just an amazingly reverent and just cool homage to these 14 astronauts and the entire shuttle program and what it stands for. As you turn right, you walk into this room and you gasp like I did. On the far left is a part of the Challenger with the American flag on it, and the left, and then on the right is the windscreens that held the glass windows of Columbia's cockpit. And when you look closely, there's still pine needles in those window frames there. So as we go down the hallway on the left side, we'll look at what NASA has so beautifully installed to honor the Challenger astronauts. First up, they have the beautiful picture of a launch there. As you enter this tribute there, this is right below Shuttle Atlantis. We know not everyone has been or can go to the Kennedy's Visitors Complex. Hope you do sometime. And this will bring you tears to your eyes and just make you just wonder and think about these beautiful individuals. First is Commander Dick Scobie, having learned the ropes as pilot on STS-41C in April 1984, which was also Challenger. Dick Scobie was born in Clay Elum, Washington, an avid outdoor haven. Scobie was a decorated combat pilot in the Vietnam War. He became a test pilot and eventually an astronaut, one of the, quote, 35 new guys, which was the class in 1978 that actually El Onizuka was on, and Judy Resnick and Rob McNair, four members of that class perished. They are the first astronauts that were selected since 1979, almost 9 years, and they needed a lot of astronauts, of course, to fill this new space truck. In April 1984, Scobie piloted Challenger STS-41C, which successfully deployed one satellite and repaired another. All right. A lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, when he died at age 43, Dick Scobie is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. And there you see his memory case there, TFNG, the 35 New Guys t-shirt in there, and his skull cap from one of his flight missions and other things are in there that were some of his possessions that the family wanted to share. The next Challenger astronaut is rookie pilot Michael Smith. He was a Navy captain, born in Beaufort, North Carolina. He got his pilot's license before he got his driver's license. A Vietnam veteran flying various fighter jets, he was an avid pilot who flew 28 different kinds of civilian and military aircraft. And here's his case showing his some planes in there. Marty, he was an avid runner like yourself. He was selected as an astronaut in the NASA 1980 Group 9 and was chosen to pilot 51L. Certainly would have been a commander someday. He was also assigned to pilot a future mission that was to take place in the fall of 1986. So he was worked on this mission and already learning about the fall mission. But he never completed either. He died at age 40 and is buried in our National Arlington Cemetery. Ellison S. Onizuka, known as El, was born in Kealakekua, Hawaii, and became the first Asian American in space when he served as a mission specialist aboard Shuttle Discovery for STS-51C in January 1985, the first Department of Defense mission that we celebrate in our Shuttles of January. There is his flight suit that he wore in space with that bold military eagle-looking insignia. Onizuka earned a degree in aerospace engineering from the University of Colorado at Boulder, then served as an Air Force test pilot before being tagged by NASA as one of the 35 new guys and girls in 1978. Onizuka's role in the Challenger mission was to deploy the Tracking Data Relay Satellite, which was a communications network NASA was building for their own satellites and the shuttle orbiters. He would troubleshoot any problems from the orbiter. Onizuka has an asteroid and a moon crater named after him. Lieutenant Colonel Onizuka was a Buddhist when he died at age 39. He was buried at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Honolulu, Hawaii. The next shuttle astronaut was also a veteran to space. Ron McNair was an accomplished saxophone player who had planned to record a sax solo during the Challenger mission. It would have been the first original piece of music recorded in space to be recorded on cassette tapes, by the way. He is here's his display there, showing after that he achieved the 6th degree black belt in Taekwondo and was a staff physicist at the Hughes Research Lab in Malibu, California. When he was 9 years old, Ron McNair refused to leave a segregated library in his hometown of Lake City, South Carolina, until they allowed him to check out books. Imagine that brave young 9-year-old. Today, that same library bears his name. In 1978, McNair was selected as one of 35 applicants from a pool of 10,000 for the NASA astronaut program. He flew aboard STS-41B, which was also Challenger, as a mission specialist, becoming the second African American in space and the first of the Baha'i faith to fly in space. Ron McNair is buried at Restlawn Memorial Park in his hometown of Lake City, South Carolina. He died at age 35. More than 30 buildings, parks, and schools are named after Ron McNair across America, including a school not too far from us, Marty. The next astronaut to lose her life on Challenger was Judy Resnick. Born in Akron, Ohio, Judy was the first Jewish American in space and the first Jewish woman of any nationality to travel to space. That was the maiden voyage of discovery in 1984, making her the fourth woman in space. And a bachelorette, she took a photo of actor Tom Selleck to space with her that he'd autographed, and Tom Selleck become a kind of a fixture around the space program because of that. Judy Resnick was a child prodigy. She was a savant at concert pianist, is what they thought she was going to be when she grew up. In 1966, just to give you an idea how smart Judy Resnick was, in 1966, she was the only woman to attain a perfect score on her college SAT entrance exam and only the 16th woman to do it. A perfect score on your SAT entrance exam. She turned down the Juilliard School of Music, choosing instead to pursue an electrical engineering degree at the Carnegie Mellon Institute. And there is her flight suit from her Discovery mission, and the School of Juilliard, Carnegie Mellon there did a story on her, and the sheet music back there to symbolize that she was could have been a concert pianist if she wanted to be. Think about that. In 1977, she earned a PhD in electrical engineering from the University of Maryland. Resnick went on to work for RCA as an engineer on NASA missile and radar projects, where she was very instrumental in, I think, the MX missile. She was recruited by NASA to the astronaut program as a mission specialist at age 28 and was in the first group of 6 women chosen out of 8,000 applicants, female applicants. Losing her life for her country at age 36, Judy Resnick is interred at Arlington National Cemetery. Gregory Jarvis. What a star-crossed seat he got on his fatal flight. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Born in Detroit, Michigan, Greg earned a bachelor's and master's degree at State University of New York and a master's degree from Northeastern University in electrical engineering before joining the Air Force, and then he went on to work for Hughes Aircraft. Hughes Aircraft was a big manufacturer of satellites. He was going up with the satellites to if any problem was up there, he could troubleshoot it from space and maybe do an EVA. He worked on a number of satellite design projects, and that's why he was selected by NASA as a very special group that was evolving this first 25 shuttle flights. He was not a typical astronaut in training, but a company astronaut to work with these spacecraft, communication satellites and stuff that were going to be deployed. Twice he was bumped by 2 politicians. He was bumped by Jake Garn about a year before this flight, and then Bill Nelson just a month before this flight took his seat. The U.S. Florida representative took his seat on STS-61C, which was just 12. It landed 12 days before the launch of Challenger. Jarvis died at age 41 and was cremated, and his ashes scattered in the Pacific Ocean. And our last Challenger astronaut being remembered today is, of course, Sharon Krista McAuliffe, born in Boston, Massachusetts, a social studies teacher at Concord High School in New Hampshire. In 1983, Krista McAuliffe became a hero to school children everywhere in America. She was going to be NASA's first teacher in space, and it was a role that she felt she had been born to play. Krista was fascinated by space, and in grade school once told a friend, "Do you realize that people be going to the moon, maybe even taking a bus there? I want to do that." In 1984, President Ronald Reagan announced the Teacher in Space project. She beat out 11,000 applicants for NASA's Teacher in Space program and was celebrated for her enthusiasm. The runner-up of that, Barbara Morgan, Marty, we're gonna see her out at Kennedy Visitors Complex tomorrow morning, as she is the astronaut of the day out there today. NASA hoped that, and Barbara Morgan did go to space to honor Krista McAuliffe. NASA hoped that sending a teacher into space would increase public interest in the Space Shuttle program. The event would showcase the important role of teachers in America. There's Krista's display at the Kennedy Visitors Complex. She was also planning to conduct 2 15-minute classes from space. The lessons were to be broadcast to millions of school children via closed-circuit TV. Closed-circuit TV, Marty. Hadn't said that in a while. All right. Of course, 37 years ago. I love in her case there, I touch the future, I teach. Love that. For the 35th anniversary of the Shuttle Challenger tragedy in 2021, the U.S. Department of Treasury issued several $100,000 silver coins commemorating Krista McAuliffe, her pictures on one side of it. And I've not run across any of those, Marty. Dollar coins are hard to come across. Maybe I'll ask for a few of those. Krista McAuliffe, at age 37, was buried at Blossom Hill Cemetery in her adopted hometown of Concord, New Hampshire. There, so it's tough to talk about this, and I'll share this photograph that I took, and I say this is one of the best, not best, significant photographs I've ever taken in my long history as a photographer. The date was in May 2018. I was wet behind the ears just coming here to the American Space Museum from Tennessee. Don Peterson had died, an early astronaut. This is Bob Cabana, then the director of Kennedy Space Center for 12 years. Bob's now the assistant administrator of NASA, and third in command behind Pam Melroy, and then Don Nelson in charge. Bill Nelson, I mean. So Cabana was there to give this wake for Don Peterson, and he went down the road there that I just showed you with the astronauts, and I thought, I'm going to follow him with my camera. And I watched him as he went into the room there, and he walked over and stood in front of this display, and then he walked over to the other display of the Columbia, and I photographed a few pictures, and he came up to me, and I said, he always wants you to call him Bob. He's a very friendly guy, 4-time astronaut, 12 years our director at Kennedy Space Center. And I said, "Sir, I hope you didn't mind I took a few pictures." And he said, "No, I don't at all." He said, "This place is," I said, "Well, it's beautiful here." And he says, "Yes, it is. It's like going to church." And I said, "Sir, what were you thinking as I took this picture of you looking at the flag on Challenger?" And he succinctly said, "Marq," he said, "these are my friends and I miss them." And that's just such a powerful, powerful statement from Bob Cabana there. And we all miss them too. And we hope that you keep them and their families in your prayers as we celebrate the lives of our fallen astronaut heroes this weekend at Spaceview Park. Please join us and until tomorrow when we honor the Columbia astronauts in much this same format. I'm Mark Marquez saying, Please keep these families in your hearts and prayers. And we'll see you again tomorrow to bridge the space between us with the Columbia astronauts. Thank you for watching.